Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Now, today we're going to continue on with our basic tutorial for Paradox's Crusader Kings III, an absolutely fantastic game that I hope that I can help you get to understand because I think you'll enjoy it a great deal once you understand the basic concepts. Now, you may remember last time we had picked our character, which is the petty king Marshad. Here is his heir, or our heir, because we will be playing the family, and that is Brian E. Bryan. Our house, our family name is Bryan, and the ginger-haired Brian is our heir. So last time we've just kind of gone around the playing surface and all of the different information that's contained there, where you can see and find everything that you need. So let's continue that game. Now you'll see here, we can continue and bring up the game that we were looking at when we first started the tutorial. Now this game is paused. And as we talked about last time, you can play this like a turn-based game. We have not moved time at all. It's the 15th of September, 1066, which is the start date of the 1066 game. You can also go back and play starting in 867 if you want, but we picked 1066. Generally, the game goes through, I believe, 1453. So you've got about 400 years of gameplay. So it's plenty. But we have not yet hit play. We're still talking about the concepts of the game. Now, I always like to recap a little bit. Last time we talked about our character, and you can click on him there. You can always hit escape to get out of that. F1 brings him up as well, and then escape. But this is our character. He's got all kinds of traits that we'll get into. That'll actually be next episode when we talk about our character. So he's got, these traits. He's got three personality traits, an education trait, and then special traits that he can add based on our lifestyle. We have not picked a lifestyle. We will do that next time. He's also got a stress level. He is not married, which we know from our over here. You are not married. This is one of those urgent messages that we've gotten, essentially telling us get married right away. But next time we will also pick a spouse. Now, there are all kinds of individual things about this character that we'll get into. But going around the board, this is our character, this is our lifestyle, this is his top title. Now, he could hold multiple titles, and our character actually does. If we look, he is the Petty King of Munster. He is also the Earl of Thomond, but we will get into that later in this episode. For now, it just matters. This is always his top title. Again, lifestyle, stress level. Now, this is our house, the house Brian, and that's really what we're playing. We will be playing this character, his heirs, their heirs, and so on and so forth through 400 years of history. We may eventually play this man's great, 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 great grandson, and he may be the Emperor of Britannia. Let's hope that that is the case. So we'll see the house here, the faith, and his culture. Now, these also correspond to three of the map filters, which are faiths, cultures, and houses. And we will be going through the map this time, and we will look at those map filters. The reason I want to talk about the map in this episode and really kind of start there for the meat and potatoes of the game is because that is what everything is based around. Everything in this game is based around counties. And you see here the county of Thomond, the county of Ormond, the county of Desmond. Everything in this game is built around counties when it comes to the map. And so I really want to focus on those because they are the major building blocks. So this is what's in the bottom left. Now we talked about these are urgent decisions. The game's telling you those decisions need to be made immediately, or you're going to lose bonuses or suffer penalties, one of the two. This window pane just tells you, hey, this is the state of the game. These are some of the decisions you can make. They don't necessarily have to be urgent. If they're urgent, they will show up here in the diamonds. But if they're over here, these are things that you can do. Like we're not endorsed by our bishop. That's something we'll probably want to take care of. Too few spouses. Now that does correspond with this one. We are not married. It turns out that our religion is polygamous, and so even when we get married once, we will still have this message, too few spouses. It does say that there are a couple of wars we could declare, and we have family members, including our heir Brian here, heir unmarried, who are unmarried. And this is telling us we have no lifestyle chosen. So anyway, we went through all of these last time. I just want to recap them. Gold, prestige, piety, these are all like currency. Obviously, gold that speaks for itself, but prestige and piety, you can also you can spin those. They're used for different things to get bonuses, maybe to get things to your advantage that you want to your advantage. You can oftentimes spend these items, and they are personal to your current character. Renown, though, is related to your house. So, House Bryan is right now insignificant. We're trying to become noteworthy, but renown is kind of an overall game score for your family. How many troops you can raise, your domain and holdings, which we will get into immediately here. You also have an outliner. We can pin characters up here, armies, domain holdings. So you have kind of a shortcut up here. Your realm, military, your council, your court, intrigue, factions, and decisions. We talked about all of those last time. Here are all the map modes. We talked about the encyclopedia. Again, here is the time and here is the speed. I generally play this on 2, although we probably will not begin playing or hit play in this episode. So again, in this episode, I'm going to title this The Map, right? Because the map obviously is an incredibly important part of this game. In most games like this, you would be trying to take over the map. Now you can play this game that way, but that doesn't have to be your only goal. As a matter of fact, it doesn't have to be your goal at all if you don't want to. Now you do have to hold some titles to pass down, so you're going to have to hold something on this map. But the map, of course, is very important because you could play anywhere on the map, but also because that's how the game is structured. Everything is structured around the county. So let's go down here to the 2 counties in our realm. So this blue outline here outlines our current realm. This character, our character, this is what he controls either directly or indirectly through vassals. Okay, and we'll get into vassals, but these are his 2 counties. Therefore, it's his realm. And this map filter here is the realm map filter, and it shows you the current state of play. These are, you know, these families control these areas. So the Kingdom of England is held by King Harold II Goodwinson, right? And he controls England. Um, we control Munster. Somebody controls Ulster, and you can see the shields here, and we could go to each one of these. Connacht, or Connacht, I guess I should say, is held by the petty king Ayed Mactagd, or of course I'm not saying that entirely correctly, but you get the idea. He holds this area here. So realms is going to show you the current state of play. Someone holds Lutetia, that is Duke Casper. Okay, and you see Duke Casper here. So that's what realms does. Now let's go down into our realm. because you're going to play the game in the realms mode most of the time because you're going to want to see who holds what, right? So let's go down here and we'll go over here to a map mode called counties. Now I told you counties are the building blocks of this game. So here are the two counties we hold, Thomond, Ormond, okay? And as we scoot down here, you will see there are parts to this county. There are also parts to this county. Or, this is an area that's not ours. There are parts to these counties. These parts are called baronies. Okay? So every county essentially has 3 to 4 baronies. Now, in the feudal system, which we are a part of, and I will go up here to governments and we'll back up for a second. All of Europe, except for southern Spain and a few parts up here in Italy or Switzerland, are feudal. Now, these are republics in red, clan in green, and tribal in brown. Okay? Feudal is the dominant political structure in Europe at this time. Tribal and clan are treated very much the same as feudal in this game, with 1 or 2 slight derivations, and we'll talk about those. But in the feudal system, if we go back to the county level, these counties all work the same, whether the county is in Ireland or it's in France. And that is that these baronies make up the county, and these baronies can either be a castle, so you see here, your castle holding. They can be a city, or they can be a bishopric or a temple. Okay, so a temple, it means the same thing. This is called, if you hover over it, it's called the Bishopric of Roscrea. That is a temple holding. Here we have the city, if we hover over it, the city of Innis, it is a city holding. And here we have the castle, if we hover over it, the barony of Luminich, it is a castle holding. So every barony in the game under the feudal system has to either be a castle, a city, or a temple. That's it. Those are the 3. Now, you'll notice out here, this barony has nothing in it, okay? And if we wanted to construct a new holding here, what's called a holding, we would hit construct new holding, and we could only build either a castle, a city, or a temple. That's it. So every barony is one of those 3 things under the feudal system. In clans and tribes, there's a 4th one, but that's really the only twist. Okay, so when we get out to places where it's tribal or clan, it's the same idea. You have a different kind of holding that can be added. But in feudal, which we're worried about here, it's castle, city, temple. That's it. Now you will notice castle, that is fine, but you see this exclamation point for city. It says, as a feudal ruler, you may not personally hold city holdings. You will have to grant the holding to someone after construction. And if we go to temple, it says, as a feudal ruler, you may not personally hold temples. You will have to grant the holding to someone after construction. Okay? And so we only hold the castle, but that also means we control the county. Whoever controls the castle in a county controls the county itself. Okay? Now cities are our vassals. They, we control this entire county. Now we can go out to these baronies and there are, different structures on them, but we control the whole county. But the castle is the only thing we control directly. Now, if we built a castle here, we could also control that castle directly. But we can never control a city directly or a temple directly. Other people control them, but we are their ruler. We are their liege. In this game, it's called a liege because we control the entire county. So if we look at the city here, Innis, it's a city holding. They independently elect a mayor. There is nothing we can do about that. There will always be a mayor of a city if you have a city in one of your baronies, okay? But he is our vassal, so he has allegiance to us. And if we click on the mayor, his name is Mayor Finsnecta, and you see we are his liege, right? Now we didn't get to appoint him. We're not really in control of him per se, but his city is in our county and he gives allegiance to us. We are his liege. Now let's go to the church. The church, the temple holding, there is a bishop, Bishop Constantine. Now he is appointed by our church, which happens to be insular Christianity. And you know what? Let's just back up for a second. We'll show faiths because this is kind of interesting when it comes to our faith. You will see almost every bit of Europe is Catholic, except for the western part of Ireland, which is insular Christianity. Now, we are Christians, but we are not Catholic. And so that's a little bit of a twist. Now, whereas obviously the Pope would be appointing the bishops in Catholic baronies, that is not the case. Let's go back to realms. That is not the case. Our bishops are appointed by whomever leads insular Christianity. But if we look at this, it's a temple holding. We'll click on him. His liege is us. He owes allegiance to us because he's in our county. Ultimately has allegiance to the church of insular Christianity, but if he's in our county, we are his liege. Now, what does that mean that we're his liege? Essentially, it means this. He has to give us a portion of the taxes that they collect and a portion of men for our armies. So taxes and levies. And if you remember nothing else out of these videos, just remember that your baronies give you taxes and levies. So let's click on this again. The bishopric, this is a barony. Now there's a temple in it, so we call it a bishopric, but it's a barony and it gives 0.89 in taxes. If someone were to attack that barony, they could loot up to 9 pieces of gold. That's kind of like the worth of it for looting purposes. And if we call upon them to raise an army, they will send us 146 men, taxes and levies. And that's what you get out of every barony. Let's go look at this blank one. Nothing. There's nothing there. Now, this supply limit is how big of an army it can supply, but we'll get to that in the warfare section. But that's the other stat that you're going to want to know about a barony. Now, let's go over here to this barony that is now the city of Innis. This collects 1.29 in taxes. It is worth 14 for loot, and you could raise 72 troops out of here if you're raising an army. That's what the mayor will send us because we are his liege. Okay? Now, also looking at baronies, you will see that it has these other items. It shows that we are the county holder. Okay? Um, this is how much of a control we have of the county. It's absolute. All right? Development is 6, and we'll get into that. There is a development tab over here. The brighter, the better. But when we go through innovations and how we research, different items, we'll get into that. But every county has a development level. Let's go back to realms. Um, Popular opinion, plus 10. That's what the common folk think of us as the petty king. Our culture is Irish, our faith is insular Christianity. Okay, so this up here all has to do with the county. And at the county level, we are called an earl, all right? The earldom of Thomond. So at the county level in Ireland, you are called an earl. In France, you're called a count, and it would be called a county level uh, area in France. In Asia, you're called a chieftain, okay? But they're all the same level, and that is county level. So we're not only the petty king here, the petty kingdom of Munster, which is all of this, we are also the controller of this county, okay? So anyway, let's go back down here. So you see all the county level things, and you see in this county, we have a temple, a blank space, and that is Nina, that is there. We have a city of Ennis, and you see it start to, light up. And we have our temple here, or not our temple, I'm sorry, our castle of Lumanich. And that is how a county is structured. Now, if we go down to the barony itself, so see, this is always the same in this county, but as you go down to the barony, it will give you the information about that particular barony. Okay, so let's go to the city one, right? That's lit up now. So this is how much tax, how much loot, how many levies, and how big of an army it can support, what its supply limit is. This is a level 1 city. If we are willing to upgrade the city or spend more money, 550, we can take it to a level 2 into a large city. Right now it's a village. It's got a village center. It's basically a small village. We could make it a large city at level 2. We could make it we could add a city center to that, and we could make it a bustling metropolis. So you can upgrade every barony. So this is the city upgrades. You could upgrade the temple. This is a temple level 1, which is a shrine. Temple level 2, we could add temple grounds. Number 3, we could make it a house of worship. 4, we could make it a grand temple. For each one of these things, we just have to spend gold, all right? And it would take a certain amount of time to build. So this is kind of the basis or the main building block of each barony. You have city level 1, you have a temple level 1, you have a castle level 1, but with the castles, it tells you a fort level and it tells you a garrison. So your castle is going to have a basic defense level, and it'll tell you what goes into that. But it's going to have a fort level and it's going to have a garrison. But this is a level 1 castle. We could take it to level 2, level 3, level 4. Now, each one of these upgrades is going to give you improvements of these things. So as a level 1 castle, we're getting zero point 0.4 gold pieces a month. Essentially, the peasants give us that because we've got this castle with high walls that they can go hide in if something bad happens. At the level 1, we have a fort level of +1. Now we've raised that up, and I'll show you how or why in a second. This is how many levies or how big of an army we can raise from the barony here and the garrison. But let's say if we upgraded this to a level 2, we go up to zero point 0.7, a fort level of +4, levies, and garrison. I mean, this really becomes much, much better, right? When we upgrade that. Now, this is the basis or the basics of what is in this barony. But then we can also build new buildings within the barony. So we could build walls and towers, outposts, wetland farms. So think of this as the building or structure itself, and this is what we can add to it or around it. Wetland farms, hunting grounds, and these are the advantages it gives you. So you get all of these different advantages if you build these things in your barony, and every barony will allow that. So let's go out here to the temple. Again, the county information. Here is the barony information, temple level 1. it has already built prayer halls, okay? And by doing that, it raised the tax 0.2. It control the control growth, so how much we control our county is improving by zero point 0.1 a month, and whoever holds this gets a piety of zero point 0.1. Great. If we went up to A2, so now as you see, not only can the temple be upgraded, which is the basic building that's on that barony, you can build things around it and as part of it, and then you can upgrade those as well. Okay, so the building part of this game could be very complex if you want it to be. You can really start thinking about how do you build onto your monasteries? Would you rather do this, or would you want to build onto the basic structure first? Or do you want to build pastoral lands here because you want more taxes, let's say, or farms and fields give you more taxes, it seems. Pastoral gives you more levies. You can go through all of these things and all the different advantages, but that's how every barony. So let's get the pencil out. Barony, two or more baronies, really, it's always at least three, right? Make a county. Now, the county is the first level of character you can play. You cannot play anyone that controls a barony. Baronies are just parts of counties. The lowest ranked character you can play would be an earl in Ireland, and an earl controls a county. So whoever controls this is the Earl of Thomond, which we do. Let's click off here for a second. If we go and look, we are indeed the Earl of Thomond, and you'll see that highlight there, right? Just the county. Now we are also the petty king of Munster because we control more than one county. We'll get to that in a second. Um, oh yes, the pencil. So let's go back to that. Um, Baronies, two or more, but it's really three or more, let's say, to counties. So this is a county. Okay? Two or more counties is a duchy. Duchy is the next size up in uh, political land, let's say. It's the next size up. And so if we click off this and back up here, so these are the counties, right? Let's click on this and see duchy titles. Okay, now you see the Duchy of Munster. The Duchy of Munster is when these three counties are together. Now they are not right now. We hold two of them, and somebody else holds Desmond, the third of them. So for an American player, think of duchies as being like states. They're made up of various counties, okay? And if we back up, you will see these duchies. They are like the states of these bigger political areas. They're made up of counties. They're like a state, okay? Now, I will say this, the duchy map filter can be aspirational in a sense, right? Because if you look at ours, this is not put together yet, right? We are the petty king of Munster because we hold two out of the three, but the entire duchy of Munster is not held by the same person. Just like Leinster is not held by the same person, and you can see this, the Duchy of Leinster is not yet created. You have to hold at least a majority of the counties of a duchy to have that duchy title. Now we do, because we have two of the three. We are the Earl of Ormond, or we hold inside our realm is the Earldom of Ormond and the Earldom of Thomond. Now you see here, though, the Earl Murdoch Mac Carthach holds Desmond, which is the Earldom of Desmond. And so the petty king of Munster inside our realm are these two counties. Outside of our realm or inside of his realm is the Earldom of Desmond. Now we will be doing something about that. But for an American, player, or if you're Canadian, you can think of this as a province. If you're American, think of it as a state. uh, this is several counties put together Um, that is the next higher political entity when it comes to land. So we have baronies, baronies become counties, counties become duchies, duchies, two or more duchies together can become a kingdom. So great, let's back out of this for a second and let's go to the kingdom map mode. And now you see the various kingdoms. Now, this is what I was talking about it being aspirational. The Kingdom of Ireland is not put together yet. No single person holds enough of these counties to declare that they are the King of Ireland. And if you look at the Kingdom of Ireland, it says right there, not created. Okay? There are two petty kings in Ireland. Us, we're the petty king of Munster. There is a petty king of Connacht. Okay? Um, but there is no Duchy of Leinster yet, Duchy of Meath, Duchy of Ulster, and you would need to hold enough of these duchies to then declare yourself for this title, which is the King of Ireland. So let's go down to England though. England, this exists already. King Harold holds enough. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not what that is, but he holds enough of these duchies to declare himself the King of England. All right. Now, if we get out of that for a second, go back, there is also a King of Scotland because King Malcolm III of Scotland holds enough of the duchies. And you see over there to the left, he holds the petty kingdom of Albany, the Duchy of Lothian, Duchy of Moray. And when you see petty kingdom, that is a duchy title. If you ever wonder what rank these things are, you can always just go look at, what their shield is or on their shield, and it'll tell you duchy title. Okay. He holds enough of these to declare himself the King of Scotland. But let's look at Wales, not created yet. It looks like someone would have to hold all three of these titles to be the King of Wales. If we go down to France, King Philippe holds enough titles and has declared himself the King of France. Okay? The next one up is Empire. And obviously, okay, let's go back to Empire. There we go. The empire out here would be the Empire of Britannia. Now, obviously, no one holds enough titles to be the Emperor of Britannia, and you see not created. Now, hopefully, our great 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 grandson will hold enough of these titles to declare himself the Emperor of Britannia. Same with Francia. It has not yet been created. King Philippe holds the Kingdom of France, but he does not hold Aquitaine, Brittany, or Burgundy, which you would need to declare yourself the Emperor of France. But let's look at the Holy Roman Emperor. Kaiser Heinrich IV does hold enough of these titles, and he is the Holy Roman Emperor. And so that is the largest and final. And if we went out east, there are Khans, or, the Byzantine Empire is a good example, right? The current holder is Constantinos, Basilius Constantinos X of Byzantine. He is the emperor of the Byzantine Empire. But over where we are, there is no Britannia Empire yet. That is aspirational. There is a King of England and Scotland, but not of Wales and Ireland yet. Our first goal will probably be to try to get enough put together to be the King of Ireland. And if you look, our grandfather here, you see grandparents, actually was the King of Ireland. And so it's not unknown for our family, but we will have to start putting these counties together, enough of them, to be able to declare ourselves the King of Ireland. Okay? And so, we can go back here. Duchies will almost always play in realms because this shows you who controls what. These other map modes show you what titles either have been created or can be created as you gain more territory. Now, the other map modes showed you faiths, so Catholic, Everywhere except over here, we're insular Christian. Um, Cultures, we are of the Irish culture. As you see here, the Vikings have landed, the Norwegians have landed here, and it's controlled by a group of Vikings, and so that's the Norwegian culture. Anglo-Saxon. Now, very shortly, William the Conqueror, William the Bastard will come across here, and we'll make this Norman. If this follows history, that's what would happen. But you see all the different cultures here, and that will matter, and we'll get into that. Here's our culture down here. It's Irish. We are actually the head of our culture because we control the most counties of anyone in the Irish culture. And so we get to say a lot about our culture, but we'll get into that when we get into our character. Here are houses. We are the House of Brian, of Godwin. This is Harold II's house. Capet, this is the French king, King Philippe's house. So you get to see, we're playing the game as a house, as House Brian. You get to see which houses control it. Now, one interesting place is here in northern Spain, the Jimena house. Okay, this is controlled by four different brothers, and that can get pretty nasty, as you can imagine. Four different brothers control it. It's all the same house. Their father died and split it up four ways, which can be a real problem in this game that we'll try to avoid. Also, if you hit plus here, you could look at the different government types, which we already did. Feudal, tribal, clan. Those are the three major ones. You see a few republics down here, but they are very few and far between. Oh, sorry, that was back to the house. Development, we talked about that. The brighter is the better development. We will be researching through our culture. As you can see here, our current fascination is chronicle writing, but we'll go and look at all of those when we look at our character, the Petty King. Terrain, we talked about that. And finally, counties, and look at all of these counties. And so that is really the map. And I wanted to cover that right up at the top so that you understood what all of these titles meant. If all you remember out of this is one last time, baronies, to counties, counties down to duchies, duchies to kingdoms, and kingdoms to empires, you know, empires, it's going to be emperors or Khan. Well, I can't remember. Khans may be kings. I don't know if there's an equivalent to emperor out here east, but emperors, kings. Now, we're called petty king, but that is the same as being a duke. Counties in Ireland, they're called earls, but it's the same as being a count. So, a count or an earl. This could also be a petty king. And then we cannot play on the barony level, but this would be, barons. It could also be mayors. It can be bishops. It's all these smaller characters that control one little part of a county. And if that's all you remember from this episode, it will have been worth it because you can take that and leverage that out into every part of the game. Now, next time when we come back, we're going to dive into our character here. We're going to start talking about all his different traits and stats and how all of that works. So, as always, thank you so much from Strategy Gaming Dojo. I hope that was very helpful to you. Heck, it was helpful to me. It's always helpful to talk these things out and really think about them. So I always enjoy making this. If you have any questions whatsoever, please put those in the comments. I'm always happy to have a good back and forth about, maybe something that wasn't clear or something you would like to know more about. So again, thank you so much from Strategy Gaming Dojo. I'll talk to you next time.